currently have to apply for the alternative exemption, okay, that'll take some time. And, some people may not be eligible, some individuals may not apply. So, this is gonna probably be a sliding scale. But for purposes of this hearing, and to give what the worst-case scenario might be, we calculated that if everyone was eligible, of the 773 individuals, it would shift the tax burden about $56 a year to the non-veteran families.
John, does that 773 include the Gold Star parents?
No, it does not. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, the school district does not make the eligibility determination for the veterans. The board considers whether they want to adopt this for setting tax rate and for tax rate purposes. If adopted, the Town of Islip Assessor's Office will notify the veterans accordingly. The district will, of course, if passed this evening, will also present something on its website and get something out to the community as well, letting them know that this did happen. For those of you that are here this evening, this has to be adopted. It has to be adopted by March 1st if it's going to go into effect for the school 15-16 tax year. So it's something that has to be done by March 1st of this year. There is really good resource information we provided on the presentation. New York State Department of Taxation. There's a website link, www.tax.ny.gov, and Division of Veteran Affairs also has significant information online about the veterans exemption. And as I mentioned, this handout is really, really good. It's one of the better ones that we have seen because it goes through the different types of veterans exemptions. It goes through the alternative exemption, the Cold War exemption, and the eligible funds exemption. And it talks about the application process and the type of application and the type of documentation that has to be provided to the assessor's office. Okay? So with that, just again for the board's information, I know one of the questions that come up frequently, the school districts on this slide are as far as we understand, have adopted the maximum state basic exemption that we're talking about this evening, the $12,000, the $8,000, and the $40,000. So with that concludes my presentation this evening, and now it's open to board discussion and/or input from the community.
Any board discussion on this?
No, the maximum is $56 that will add to
Yes, it's the average, but as I indicated, it's not going to be. We don't think that based on the process, and that's if everyone was eligible. So there has to be a process. Those eligible income veterans are going to have to file an application. They're going to have to get their DD 214. They have to provide certain documentation, go through a approval process with the assessor's office. So that's the maximum. That's what we would anticipate the maximum shift would be.
Okay.
Any other board discussion?
As far as, does that, the shift won't run, it will always, once it's done, I guess, then pretty much into the tax code.
Well, it's not, once it's approved, it's anyone that moves into Sayville community would be eligible. And you keep in mind that as people buy their houses, sell their houses, the exemption can change, the eligibility could change, so you can have more veterans move into the community. So this is really a fluid, this is really going to be a fluid number. It's not something that's fixed and finite.
I did notice one of the questions here is that they can't receive more than one exemption. Exactly, does that
I had the same question. If you have two veterans in the same household,
You can only have
on
one
the
exemption.
same unit, can they, is it per property or is it per veteran?
It's my understanding it's per piece, it's property.
Okay. But if there's two veterans that are on the deed.
It's a
still
property-
only one.
property
Okay,
exemption.
one exemption. Okay.
I think it's important to also note that if the veterans predecease their spouse, the exemption continues for the spouse. The spouse doesn't lose the exemption.
What if they divorce each other? Does the spouse lose the exemption?
It depends who the property owner is.
Okay.
And they have to be a resident of the district and own property within the district.
Yeah, I was wondering, because if,
I mean, it's unfortunate how the legislature and governor delivered this to us because it's not funded by the state, it's funded by your neighbors. You know? And it is a shift from one taxpayer to the other. The cause, I think, is good, which is the way it's being funded. I think it's unfair to the other neighbors that have to bear the cost. And that's one area that bothers me. It should be federal, but it should be at least funded by the state. If they wanted this to happen, they should have done it outright.
Can't hear you, right?
I'm sorry. No, I was just saying that the concept is a good concept. I mean, I think we all would like to see, service recognized and receive a discount. But it's being funded by your neighbors. You know, the state isn't giving the money to the school district, the money that we're losing, to veterans. That's what I find disappointing, the state.
Yeah, what the veteran gave his,
Oh, no, I agree, I definitely agree. I
like
definitely
check
agree.
for the neighbors too.
But I think the politicians up in Albany, if they wanted to do it, they should have done it.
Well, that's not the way it is done.
We're gonna have
a public session in a minute.
It's no different than the other tax exemptions we have. The county taxes are funded by the other people who live in the county.
We're gonna have a public session in a minute or so.
And so are the other ones we have exemption for, so there's no really difference between that and this.
We don't,
Okay, we're gonna
have a public session in a minute.
Oh, good, okay.
And then we're trying to get as many people up to speak as possible. Any other board members want to have input?
Mr. Verdon, I would like to make a statement.
No?
I'd like to, I hope everybody can hear me, excuse me for my back's going. I am a veteran, I started off with that. And I agree that every veterans and what the United States is not doing for the veterans gives me great distress, because I think you deserve a lot more than any of you are getting. Number two, I will not be, voting on this because I am a veteran and I will, benefit from this. However, I've encouraged the board not to pass it, and I'm going to say why. I have a lot of articles, I'm sure that you gentlemen have all read about these articles in the paper. It's pros and cons. Like I said, I'm not against this. I think we deserve it, and we deserve a lot more, because what they're doing with the veterans, the hospitals, everything, is horrible. However, this is not, should not have been put on the backs of school boards. We are not here for a political reason. We're here for the education of our children. That's number one. Number two, Cuomo, now I'm speaking for myself, gentlemen, not for the rest of the board, is doing this for political reasons. All right, number one, and I know that every last one of you here will agree with this 100%, this should be on the backs of our president. This is a federal thing. This is not a local thing. This is not a state thing. I think it's a disgrace that this is not nationwide, because we have a lot of veterans across the United States, even today, dying for this cause to keep the freedoms that we have. I think it's a shame, and I've emailed Cuomo, I've been talking to our politicians for the last year, and they all agree that it should be on Obama's calendar, not the state or not the boards of education. However, what they should be, said they were going to put bills in to get it to our president. I have not seen any action on that before. But I think it's a disgrace that it's down to the boards of education. Our governor did not stand up and say, I'm going to do it statewide. And like was said by Mr. Cooley before, I would feel very bad of taking an exemption of this sort, and a person, a senior citizen, whatever, living next door, cannot afford it, is going to have to move because our president is not stepping up to what he should be doing. So, gentlemen, I just wanted to let you know where I stand.
Okay, we will have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Devon. Thank you, Mr. Devon. First of all, thank you for your service to our country. We appreciate it, and I somewhat agree with Mr. Devon. I have no problem making a decision. I have the courage to make the decision that a governor couldn't make. I think by the governor putting this on school boards it's really unfair.
You got room for me over here?
Sure, where you want to be? Right.
The governor should have made this decision, and frankly, our president should have made the decision. He has the courage to send our men and our women to war. They should have the courage to do what's right for our country. Right. Period. That's what I feel. Anybody else? We'll open up the public session. If you'd like to make a statement, can you please step up to the podium? Although you're not required to do so, you don't have to state your name, but if you'd like us to respond to you by name, let's try to limit to a couple minutes, please, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of speakers here tonight. The gentleman in the front first.
My name is Michael Al Cabes. I am a veteran. I am a disabled veteran.
Oh, show no.
Is this the Board of Education?
I know that this is revenue neutral.
So many people on the Board of
And
Education?
yes, it's going to be put on the backs of other taxpayers. To answer your question, Mr. Dolan, if a veteran gets a divorce and moves to another residence, he is only entitled to an exemption on one. If he keeps the exemption on his old residence where his spouse is living, he cannot get an exemption on his new residence. If he gets a new residence exemption, he loses the old one. So a veteran only gets it on one residence. I am a disabled vet, and I am in favor of this. And I realize that I have 3 children in Sayville, and they're each going to go up $56 according to your presentation. And mine is probably going to go down more than 3 times 56, which is 168. And I think that if my children were here, they would vote to go forward with this. Yes, it should be back on the backs of the federal government. Yeah, it should be back on the backs of the state government, but they're not doing it. One, it will increase property values because more veterans will look to buy in Sayville. And 2, if you vote it down, it will decrease property values because less veterans will look to buy in Sayville when it's been already passed by Connecticut and a few other districts nearby. And as a representative of the VFW, mostly veterans who served on foreign soil, some who are disabled, I recommend that the board go ahead with this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Steve Antonacci. I am the commander of the American Legion, Post 651 in Sayville. I know that I speak for the veterans of this community when I encourage you to honor our veterans by joining the surrounding districts by voting to pass the veterans tax exemption. The veterans in this community did not hesitate to honor their commitment to our country. Some returned with physical or emotional scars that have impacted the quality of their life. Please consider passing the veterans tax exemption tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening and Happy New Year. My name is James Weber. I'm retired from the United States Coast Guard after 21 years of service. I would like to start off by thanking the 51 sailors and soldiers of Long Island that have died in Iraq and Afghanistan, just those conflicts, to allow me the opportunity to be here this evening. Those are my heroes. I was a little late coming in this evening, which I regret, but every other board meeting I've been to, we've stood up and we've said the Pledge of Allegiance. Some just utter the words while others say the pledge and they listen and they feel what every word means. I encourage everybody here to listen to Red Skelton on YouTube to find the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, I'd like to quote him, not in the entirety, but just the first line of, I pledge allegiance to the flag. And he says, I, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom wherever she waves. There is respect because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. We're talking about $1 a week at the maximum. Should it be the federal government? Probably. Should we end the GEA? Probably. Are there other funds that we should be receiving? We shall. But we have an opportunity here for Sayville to take care of its own. Wouldn't it be hypocritical of us to fly an American flag in front of our homes if we were to vote no? Wouldn't it be hypocritical to take paid days off for Veterans Day and Memorial Day if we were to vote no and not take care of those that gave us those days? Wouldn't it be hypocritical to even say the Pledge of Allegiance if we were to vote no? I did a year in the Middle East, and I can tell you firsthand, we are the most fortunate people in this world. Some look at our crazy government as being broken right now, but even if you look at this government as being in shambles, we are so far above and beyond any other country in this world that I am very, very proud to be an American. Veterans serve their country, most certainly not for the money, but for their patriotism, their honor, their respect, and their devotion to duty. And this is a fantastic opportunity for the community of Sayville to not only say thank you, but to prove what a great patriotic little town we live in. I see our national ensign flying on telephone poles on several blocks. When my wife and I came to Sayville to go shopping, we turned down Jolbet, and there was nothing but a sea of red, white, and blue, flag on every telephone pole. And right there, I knew I was home. So, again, I appreciate you hearing me out. I highly encourage that we take care of our own. We can point the finger to the governments, we can point the finger everywhere, but let's take care of our own. This is a way to say thank you.
Any other community input? There's a gentleman in the back.
Just be very brief. My name is Joe White. The tone of a lot of what I'm hearing is that you would have preferred that it came from Washington or Albany to take care of this. So we're kind of looking to the other guy to do what's right. And all these veterans that you see here did not wait for somebody else to take care of business. When they saw a problem, they stepped up and took care of it. And that's really kind of what we should be doing here. Yeah, Washington should have done it. Yeah, Albany should have done it, but they didn't. Does that mean we turn a deaf ear to this and don't do it? I think you really need to rethink that. Thank you. Evening, board. Thank you for listening to me. My name is L.W. Murphy. I'm a sergeant at arms at Post 651 in Sayville. I'm president of American Legion Riders out of Sayville. I'm not a Sayville resident. Straight up, I'm a Blue Point Bayport resident, so I expect all you people to show up at Blue Point next week.
13th of January.
The situation...
It's the first Tuesday of every month, I think.
The situation comes down to a combination of practical and philosophical. Philosophically, there's really no question that veterans deserve their due. I agree where it should be on the shoulders of the state or the federal government. I just came from Albany, watched our new senator get sworn in, and just came back from Washington to see our new congressman get sworn in. But that's not the reality. The reality is it's on our plate, and you're going to deal with it. But practically speaking, there's X amount of veterans that are going to apply for this, and it will take approximately $56 out of our neighbor's pocket. I remind you that that's going to go down because we're dying. The number of veterans in this country is not increasing. After World War II, there were 33% of the population were veterans. We're down to 3%. There's a good chance by this time next year, some of the people in this room are not going to be here. So if you think that veterans are going to move in here in droves because there's $56 coming out of the neighbor's pocket, you're wrong. Eventually that money's going to wind up staying where it belongs. The dollars earned are going to stay where it's deserved to be. But for now, the gesture, in my opinion, the philosophical angle on this is far outweighs the practical angle of it. So I urge you to join the other districts in the area that have done what I consider to be the right thing and vote to give us this break. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I am Tim Southerton. I'm president of the Teachers Association, but I am not speaking for my association, I'm speaking for myself as an individual and a resident. I want to thank everybody in here who served our country. I will happily pay more for you guys, women, to get this tax exemption. I urge the board to support it. But I also agree with Mrs. Devino and those other speakers. The sacrifice and commitment you made was for every American. Highland Falls, New York is in the shadow of West Point. There's a very large amount of veterans in that community. Watertown, New York. I grew up in Levittown. Those communities have a higher density of veterans. And there are other communities that don't have any. So I think part of the job I hope the board passes this tonight, but part of the job is I think we have to all continue to work together for the other part to see that the sacrifice by those of us who didn't serve our country is shared by everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for speaking. The board is gonna
I think we have to go out.
I may get this procedurally wrong. We have a person, one more.
I'm sorry.
You wouldn't mind stepping up to the.
My name is Kelly Sack. I'm a West Sayville resident for almost 12 years. I just came today to hear what this was about. I wasn't really sure what this all entailed. But after hearing all of these people speak, as one of those people who the tax would shift to, I would like to say that I know you're saying as a board, the Board of Education, this should not be put on you. Maybe because the Board of Education is about schools and about our children. But I think that after hearing everyone speak, that these people in our community, I'm sure many of them, this man has 3 children, I'm sure many of them are grandparents in this district, and I'm sure what they're providing for their grandchildren in this district is probably pretty special. And maybe we should do something to encourage them to stay and to share those life experiences with their grandchildren. Thank you.
our time is all public. The gentleman in the back, please come up.
Thank you. I'm Bill Marr. I live on 99 Collins Avenue, Sayville. I'm sorry I'm late. I had a 3-year-old that had just bed, and he didn't want to go to bed, so now we're running around the house crazy. But
When did you get home?
yeah, I just want to thank everybody here for the service. I was a sergeant with 7th Marines, but I'm also a school administrator in Clark Formie District in Nassau County. I've been one for a decade, so I understand the hard decision part that boards make. But I also understand what it's like to be an 18-year-old kid who gets called into formation and told to go home because you're getting on a plane, you're going to some place you've never even heard of before. Okay. I also know what it's like to be a 21-year-old sergeant who has to look a kid in the eye that's 18 years old because he's crying because he didn't make his will because he's about to get on a plane and go overseas again. So I also know what it's like to be a disabled veteran who can't hear his kid sometimes because his tinnitus is so bad. So I just wanted to say, and I'm sorry I'm late, that I really hope you guys do the right thing. So thank you.
Okay, any other board input? No other board input, we need to go to recommended action, Veterans Tax Exemption, 3.1. Need a motion, please? Is it up?
What's that?
Once the PowerPoint tops, just.
It's just that.
3.1.
Hit that and then just make it fill it open?
No, it just has.
That was the same thing.
PowerPoint question.
I know you guys aren't all looking at me, right? I'm going to read the motion. First off, I need a motion to...
Oh, it's right over there?
I'll read it anyway for those who... Be resolved whereas Chapter 518, Section 458-A, Subdivision 2, Paragraph D, Subparagraph I, the Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York allows the district to provide tax exemption to certain qualified owners of qualified real property as defined by Section 458-A, and whereas it is in the best interest of the community to provide such relief for the veterans of our district, it is hereby resolved that the Board of Education elects to participate in exemption to real property tax, Section 458-A, Subdivision 2, Paragraph A, B, C, and it further resolved that the district adopts the statutory basic maximums as defined by real property tax law, Section 458-A, Subdivision 2, Paragraph A, B, and C, for the maximums of exemption to real property tax, Section 458-A, Subdivision 2, Paragraphs A, B, and C. I need a motion.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried.